I noticed that you have the Led Zeppelin Swan Song, and you also have a couple of Motorhead tattoos. And this is something I didn't know until just earlier this year, but did you know that the artist that created the Swan Song, Angel, and the guy who does the Motorhead album covers is the same artist?
Wow.
I had no idea.
Joe Patagno.
Yeah. I actually, a friend of mine, I borrowed a book of his, like all the album cover, all the Motorhead stuff, and just different posters and a lot of his own stuff that he did and all. So yeah, I had no idea that he was the, I had no idea it was the same guy.
It's the same guy. There you go. There's your happy hour trivia question. You can win a beer off that.
That's amazing.
No, I'm glad to find that out because I got the Swan Song thing when we were doing the Down 2 record, and it was. We just kind of, we didn't even have time to listen to music, but I think we were just trying to get the vibe a little bit. And for me personally, I was probably listening to more Zeppelin than any other band during the making of that record.
Wow.
Because we lived out at Phil's property, at the house and the lair and all that stuff. So, we didn't have days off. We just worked in shifts. It was crazy. But yeah, I was really into Zeppelin at the time. And as I always have been since I was a kid, I was really going through a Zeppelin phase. And I said, you know what, fuck it. So, because our tattoo, the guy that does most of my tattoos, and he's done Phil and Dime and everybody, he was like, man, I can bring all my shit out, to Phil's. And we said, hey, come on.
Wow.
We did. And I was actually listening to, I think we listened to the whole The Song Remains the Same and listened to Presence because I think Achilles' Last Stand is probably my favorite Zeppelin song. And a lot of people like, which song? That aren't big fans.
Were you the one, or did you have anything to do with the title of that Down record, Bustle in Your Head?
Good question.
That was all Phil, but I think that's subconsciously or maybe consciously because of all the Zeppelin talk and different stuff, kind of vibes we were trying to throw around with it, and really the whole idea of the record, or what started it was we don't need let's put ourselves in like rock and roll / metal jail. Okay, let's lock ourselves out in the middle of nowhere, rent an entire truck full of studio gear, bring it out, and make ourselves write and record 15 songs in 28 days. And that's exactly what we did. We lived out there. I went home Thanksgiving Day to eat lunch with my mother and went back that evening. And that was the only break we even had. That was way toward the end. But yeah, we made ourselves just live and breathe, kind of like our version, our southern swampy version of, renting a castle in Wales and bringing in some stuff to record or whatever, Yeah. But that was kind of the whole thing. And then Phil was like, well, we thought about just saying, okay, we got Down Low, like maybe just call it Down 2. And he goes, dude, do you think it's cheesy if we called it A Bustle in Your Hedgerow? And I said, I like it, and he goes, a lot of people aren't going to know, what it's from, even though us older dudes obviously know it,
Yeah.
But I said, no, man, I think it's a great idea. So that was totally a Phil thing.
I think it's genius. I think that it says a lot about where you guys were. And I never knew that you guys, I think I knew you guys recorded at Phillips, but I didn't realize it was like a bunker type of a thing.
Yeah. I did. And that's one of the things I was going to ask about. And I think Kirk more or less covered it here, but I was going to ask about the recording experience because I knew that you guys were all holed up at Phil's house, and it's basically a barn out in a swamp. And you guys, and it's the band, and like you said, you're just sort of isolated out there in the middle of nowhere. And I was curious to know if there was any particular moment during that session that sparked a real creative a moment of real creativity that you wouldn't have captured anywhere else because you were so isolated, and it was just the band together in this weird environment, sort of shut off from the world, and you probably got a couple beers going or whatever. What? Yeah. So was there a moment where you all looked at each other and went, "Whoa, we're onto something, really heavy here, really really cool here, and let's run with it"? And what did that turn into, if so?
I mean, I would say that once we became comfortable with what we were going to be dealing with, that it was almost impossible to stop the creativity. Like,
well put.
As much as everyone is so, and I get it, and of course I am too, so proud of and so high on the Down NOLA record. Lately, if I happen to put on Down, which, most musicians don't listen to their own shit very often. I put on an old album they hadn't heard 15, 20 years just to, oh, wow, man, just kind of bring back a little nostalgia. But like, for me, it was just like, well, once we became like comfortable in our surroundings and what we had created, and we saw how quickly things were gone. It's like we would be up till 2:00 in the morning, and then we're cutting scratch tracks on drums at 8 a.m. for the song that was completed at 2 in the morning. And then people just slept in shifts when we did sleep. And it was Phil stayed in his house, which is not a barn, it's a real house. The house. Yeah. And Rex stayed in one of the spare ones in there. And Jimmy, I think he might have stayed in there too. But Pepper and I I slept on the couch on top of the studio, and Pepper slept in like a little kid's bunk bed thing or something. And that was it. I mean, Pepper's one of them guys that's up hammering nails, and rebuilding his car at 7 a.m. every morning anyway. So I'd be exhausted and hungover as fucking, and I smell breakfast getting cooked. He's like, "Come on, boy, get up, I got breakfast." And I'm like, "Dude, I only slept like 3 hours. Fuck that, you'll be fine, come on." And we get up and eat a little breakfast, and we go downstairs, and sure enough, Rex is laying down. He's still up from the night before or whatever. And we just but we would find a time together to go over everything and have a couple of hours. Really, most of the songs were honestly written in a couple of hours. Some of them some of the ones that are a little more things like Lies and Learn from My Mistake, ones that were a lot more dynamic and a lot longer and more epic-ish, for lack of a term, better term. Those were sometimes might have been like 2-day songs and stuff, but a lot of the stuff was really put together, in like an evening. And then, like I said, Jimmy, we play guitar and shit till we couldn't keep our eyes open, and Jimmy be tracking drums in the morning. And to be honest, man, Rex, that was the first time I've really gotten to work with Rex as a musician, not just a hangout buddy,
right,
and maybe get him around a little bit. And it was like, he was so good on bass with these songs that were literally hours old that, when it came to do bass, he pretty much reamped, which I didn't even know what reamping was. He pretty much just reamped his scratch tracks and maybe punch in a note here and there. But that's how tight he was on stuff.
Yeah, he fed the scratch track into the main machine just through a filter or a preamp or something.
And it's the weirdest thing to say I'm reamping something or whatever, and I got I walk past my amp quietly to go take a piss or something, at the bathroom over here, and I'm like, that's me playing out of the fucking Marshall cabinet right there, but I'm not really doing it, but it's being recorded right now. It's a cool thing, but yeah, I mean, everybody really played great. I mean, some things took longer than others, but the whole experience, I tell everybody, it's something that I'm so glad that we all did. But I know for me personally, I would never and could never do that experience again. But then again, we started that around November 1st of 2001. So that was, coming up 21 years ago.
Yeah.
So
the fantasy of doing that again sounds attractive, but nowadays it doesn't sound like it would be that comfortable.
No, and I mean, I didn't mind at the time. I mean, to be honest, you know, it was right before I got with my wife, who is my daughter's mother. You know, like, you know, we was kind of casually dating, but nothing, but whatever. So I was still living at mom's. You know, I mean, so for me, it was like just keep the beer and the Crown Royal coming, and you know, keep the guitars in tune and keep the amps cranked, and let's just keep on jamming, boys. So.